This tower is neither a lime kiln nor an old French fort. It was built in 1832 during the period of British rule in Mauritius. This is the Martello Tower in La Preneuse at Rivière-Noire. It was designed as a coastal fort to defend the island against enemies coming ashore. From 1832 to 1834, the British built 5 Martello towers at strategic sites along the island's coastline. 2 were set up in Rivière-Noire at La Preneuse and at L'Harmonie, 2 in Grande Rivière Nord-Ouest at Pointe-aux-Sables and Fort Victoria, and 1 in Fort George. Martello towers were an integral part of the British coastal defences in the 19th century. The British built about 210 towers around the world.
The history of Martello towers is fascinating. It all started in 1794, during the French Revolution. The British went to the rescue of the Corsicans against French forces, but were forced to withdraw with 62 injured men and their vessels seriously damaged. In face of the resistance by a tower at Martello Point in Corsica, the English were so impressed by the design of this tower at Martello Point that they studied it and built 103 towers modelled on it along the south coast of England as defences against possible attacks by Napoleon. They then built 107 such towers in various parts of the world, including South Africa, the United States of America, Ireland and Canada.
All these towers were known as Martello towers, the name obviously derived from the Corsican point Martella. A few of these towers have been conserved, restored and converted into museums. But what prompted the English to build Martello towers in Mauritius? By 1832, the British, who had been on the island for 20 years, were on the point of abolishing slavery. It was also during this period that Indian immigration started. The colonists reacted against the abolition of slavery as they believed it would have a negative effect on the economy. The English feared an uprising by the colonists with the military support of France. French support could only come from the sea, as airplanes did not exist at that time. The English therefore decided to reinforce the coastal defences of the island by erecting Martello towers to be used in the event of a French attack.
So on the 13th of November 1831, a small contingent of the Royal Engineers Sappers disembarked in Mauritius at Codin, Port Louis, and immediately began building the 5 Martello towers in various identified sites as part of their instructions to build coastal fortifications. We need to ask the question, how were the sites chosen?
For the defense of Mauritius at that time, it was essential to protect the deeper bays at Port Louis, Grande Rivière Nord-Ouest and Rivière-Noire. A Martello tower was therefore put up on both sides of the Rivière-Noire and Grande Rivière Nord-Ouest bays and 1 at Port Louis. Behind me we can see Harmony Point, which is the site of a Martello tower. The point on the northern flank of the bay is La Preneuse, the site of another Martello tower. Cannons were mounted on these towers. They could cross fire to prevent enemy vessels from entering the bay. It is to be noted that none of these towers was engaged in a battle. The Royal Engineer Sappers mission was concluded with the building of the citadel in Port Louis. What has been the fate of the Martello towers? In Mauritius, 2 of the 5 towers have disappeared. With developments taking place in the port, those at Fort Victoria and Fort George were lost. The tower at Pointe-aux-Sables still stands. The Martello Tower at La Preneuse was until recently in a similar state of dilapidation as that of L'Harmonie. The interior of the Martello Tower at La Preneuse was in ruins. Access to the upper floor was inexistent. Only the walls remained in good condition on account of their solid structure. The initiative to renovate the tower was taken by a non-governmental organization, Friends of the Environment.
This has been possible thanks to the cooperation and assistance of the Mauritian government, various embassies, local private firms, and with the support of Friends of the Environment. The tower has been restored with accuracy, respecting all technical and historical details. It will soon be converted into a museum. The wooden staircase did not exist in the tower originally, but has been erected for the tower's current use as a museum.
The La Preneuse Martello Tower is 30 feet high. The diameter at the base is 32 feet and 28 feet at the top. It is a truncated cone. The thickness of the walls varies according to their exposure to the sea. They are 6 foot thick on the lanyard side, and on the bay side they are 11 foot thick to better resist shelling from the sea. Initially, this door on the ground level and the steps leading to it didn't exist. The tower was accessible by the door on the first floor by means of a retractable ladder. There are 4 levels: the roof, the first floor, the ground floor, and the basement.
Let's start with the most important place in the tower. On the roof, mounted on a central pivot, is a 24-pound cannon, the weight of the cannon balls, its carriage and traversing platform. The 4 wheels on the ground of the floor and 2 running on a reined rail encircling the tower give the cannon a 360-degree firing range. The firing range of the cannon was 2 kilometers. A single cannon shot could kill 40 men outright. The cannon's slide is made of wood to minimize injuries in the case of an explosion.
The shot and powder needed for firing the cannons were kept in convenient recesses in the wall. Further supplies were stored in the ground floor along with guns, bullets, and other materials. In the powder room, the arched roof was designed to reduce the impact of an eventual explosion. The ground floor was fitted with ventilation conducts. The interior was not provided with any light. A remote source of light, protected by glass, illuminated the interior. The powder room was well protected from enemy bombardment by its thick walls. The staircase from the ground to the first floor did not exist. The cannonballs and other ammunition were taken up through a trap door. And then along the stone staircase up to the roof. Food, arms, and water were also taken up through the trap door by means of a pulley and rope. Water was an essential need for the soldiers.
The water collection system is particularly ingenious. Rainwater was collected on the roof by these drains running around the roof, which was channeled into a central reservoir. From here, the water ran down a pipe along the wall to the reservoir in the basement.
The water reservoir has a capacity of 4,500 gallons and occupies half of the basements. The other half is divided into 3 parts. The soldiers' food supplies were stored on either side of the powder supplies. The first floor was used as a kitchen with a hearth, a dining room, and as a dormitory for up to 20 men. The officers' room was also on the first floor. There were no toilets in the tower. A gun rack for the soldiers' muskets and shelves along the walls for their bedclothes and other personal effects needed for a stay in the tower were located in the first floor. The Martello Towers are key elements of our history. They also reflect our past and are the witnesses of the historical and cultural events of the country, namely the abolition of slavery, the Franco-British conflict, as well as the start of the Indian immigration to Mauritius. The Martello Tower at La Preneuse will, beyond any doubt, have a touristic and cultural impact at national and international levels. Tourism also implies an insight into culture and into the past. The restoration of the Martello Tower at La Preneuse and its conversion into a historical museum are another step towards the preservation of our national heritage.